Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Cooking with Chef Aaron. Today, we're going to be setting foot in the Eurasian country of Azerbaijan. Now this country was requested to me by none other than Steele Marple. As always, thank you for your request, I'd like to give a big shout out to you, and I hope to receive more requests from other people sometime soon. Okay, so I'm going to start this review off by talking about the largest and capital city of Azerbaijan, which is called Baku. Now, this is a pretty fascinating city because, as you can see here, there's three towers that look alike, three triplet towers. Triplet towers, kind of similar to the twin towers that New York City used to have before 9/11. And as you can see, they're very futuristic in design. They're very curvy. I really like how abstract and surreal they are. It's just a very fascinating city to look at. And as you can see in this other photo, you can see some medieval Asian architecture, like medieval Middle Eastern architecture, kind of similar to what you would see in Iraq or Syria. And it just looks really cool with the triplet towers in the background, like I mentioned earlier. It's just a very fascinating city. Okay, so now I'm going to shift my attention over to the second largest city in Azerbaijan, which is called Ganja. And this city isn't really as interesting as Baku, I don't find, because as you can see here in this picture, it consists of a tourist attraction that's kind of similar in appearance to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. And as I'm sure you're all aware, as I mentioned this in a previous episode of mine, I'm not too crazy about Paris or any other parts of France for that matter, because I find a lot of French architecture and landmarks to be very bland. I know this is going to be a very controversial opinion. People are going to bash on me for just liking a country that a lot of people like, but that's just my view of France. I don't really care for France that much. And as for this tourist attraction in Ganja, it's not really any different. I mean, I do like the palm trees that are kind of off to the side, the mini palm trees. It looks very aesthetic the way it is. Very symmetrical design. I like it a lot. And that's just what I've got to say about it. Okay, so now I'm going to shift my attention over to the third largest city of Azerbaijan, which is called Sumkayet. This city isn't really that fascinating either because, as you can see, it just consists of a bunch of regular buildings. They're not very colorful at all that much. Yeah, it's not really anything too fascinating. It's just a bunch of careless buildings. They don't really look too abstract. They don't look too futuristic. Nothing really stands out about them. They just kind of look like a regular buildings that you would find sort of like in a European village or something like that. It's not really that entertaining to look at. Okay, so to wrap up this review, I'm going to talk about the rural parts of Azerbaijan now. And as you can see here, it consists of a bunch of green mountains, very nice landscapes. It's very nice, good for sightseeing. And as you can see, it looks very similar to that of Scotland and Lesotho. And one thing all three of these countries have in common, Azerbaijan, Lesotho, and Scotland, is that their countryside resembles like a golf course. If you walk through it, you can kind of just, or drive through the countryside, you can imagine yourself driving through a gigantic golf course. And of the three countries, I think Scotland is probably my favorite because that's the one that looks like the most medieval of the three. Because as you can see, it's kind of like the most colorful, it's the most surreal, it's the most interesting to look at. And then Azerbaijan would probably be my second favorite because it's very green. It has that sort of Asian feel, kind of similar to Tajikistan or Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, kind of like that. I really like that vibe to it. It looks very good the way it is, but it's not really quite as colorful as the other rural parts of those countries. And as for Lesotho, that one's probably my least favorite because that one isn't really the most colorful or intriguing to look at. Okay, so overall, I think I'd probably have to give the country of Azerbaijan a B. Okay, with all this said and done, let's head up to my kitchen right now, and I'll show you how to make the dumpling soup. Follow me, please. Alright, so in order to make the Dushpara, the ingredients you'll need are as follows. Now these are all the ingredients for the dough to assemble the dough for the dumpling soup. So in this bowl we have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 egg, and 1/3 cup of water. And we're going to use this rolling pin to roll out the dough when the time comes. And we're going to mix it all together in this big stainless steel bowl. Alright, so we're going to start off by taking this flour and transferring it to this big bowl right here. And to this I'm going to add my salt. And then I'm going to add my egg. And I'm also going to add my water. So now I'm just going to give this a little bit of a good mix with the spatula. And eventually this will be sticky enough to form a dough, and then I'll just knead it with my hands until it's all nice and formed. And you just want to keep kneading it, and afterwards we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so once you've mixed and kneaded your dough, it should look a little something like this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to leave this covered for 30 minutes, and we're just going to stick it in the fridge, and then we'll move on to the meat mixing. Okay, so now while we let the dough rest, we're going to move on to the next part of the cooking process, which is making the filling for the dumplings. And to do this, you'll need the following ingredients. We have 1 pound of beef in this container, 1 small onion that's been chopped in this bowl. We have half a teaspoon of salt and a quarter teaspoon of pepper in this bowl. We're going to start mixing right now. Alright, so we'll begin by putting in this meat in the little bowl. And to this I will add my onions, as well as my seasonings of salt and pepper. Now I'm just going to grab my little spatula. We're going to kind of crush the meat, and we're going to mix this up so everything is nicely blended here. And afterwards we will let this rest in the fridge. Okay, so as you can see, the dough has rested for 30 minutes and it's ready to roll out. And as you can see, I've applied a little bit of flour to the cutting board and a little bit of flour to the rolling pin. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just attempt to roll this out, and if needed, you just need to apply more flour to your cutting board if you feel it's a little bit too sticky. And we're just going to attempt to roll this out into a nice thin layer. And once that is done, we will apply our meat filling that we prepared earlier, and we will apply it to the dough bit by bit. Okay, so once you've rolled out your dough, it should look something like this. It needs to be like super thin. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use this knife right here. We're just going to like cut the dough into like little pieces that are big enough, but small pieces, but big enough to insert the meat filling that we made earlier. We're just going to like cut them like this, and then we're just going to apply the meat filling to each of the squares, and then we're going to be ready to fold them up afterwards. I'll demonstrate everything in more detail in the next step. Okay, so as you can see, I've already cut my first vertical line here, well, horizontal to you guys because you guys are facing this way. But so it's my first vertical line here, and then you're just going to leave some space that's big enough for the dumplings. Then we're just going to cut again like this. And then we're just going to keep repeating this step until we get to the very end of the dough, making sure to leave enough space for each of your dumplings. Okay, so as you can see, I've finished cutting the dough horizontally, and now I'm just going to do the same thing, but vertically now. And you just kind of want to leave enough space once again between your dumplings, so this should be good, like this. And then just leave enough space. And you just want to keep doing this once again until you reach the very end of your dough. Okay, so now that you've cut your dough into squares, next thing you want to do is you want to take the meat mixture that you put in the fridge and you made earlier. You want to take it out, and you just want to take like a good spoonful, like a small spoonful, somewhat like this maybe. And then you just want to put it onto the square like this. And you just got to fill up all the squares with the meat filling. And afterwards we'll roll them into little dumpling balls. So just take a little bit of this and just put it on like that. And just keep doing it until the squares are filled. Okay, so once you've placed your meat on your dumplings, they should look something like this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take one square of the dough that has the meat on it, and I'm just going to fold it up as such, like this. You want to try to do the best you can to stuff the meat inside the dough. And once you feel it's all stuffed inside the dough, you can just place it on a plate beside you. I have a plate right over here. And you just gotta keep doing this until you're all out of the dumplings. Alright, so once you've assembled your dumplings, they should look something like this. As you can see, I've rolled them into little balls, and they're eventually going to go in the soup. And I will demonstrate that in the next step. Okay, so now that we've assembled our dumplings, it is time to start making the soup now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 4 cups of beef broth right here. We're going to pour it all into the pot. Just like that. Make sure it all gets in. And to this we're going to add half a teaspoon of turmeric. Make sure it gets added like that. And we're just going to turn on the stove. And we're just going to let this be brought to the boil before adding our dumplings. Just going to get a spoon and we're just going to mix this all around. Okay, so as you can see, our beef broth is beginning to boil. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take all the dumplings you made earlier and you just want to put them in the soup without splashing. Make sure they're evenly distributed so they're not sticking together. Okay, so now once you've added all your dumplings to the soup, you want to reduce the heat to a simmer, so about 2 or 3 maybe. And you just want to take your spoon and you just want to mix it all around just so nothing sticks. And you just want to stir continuously. And we're going to simmer this for 10 minutes and then afterwards we should be ready. If you need more time, you can always let it simmer for a bit longer, like maybe 5 minutes or something. Okay, so now once you've finished cooking your soup, what you're going to do is you're going to garnish it with a little bit of mint. So a little bit of mint all around here. And you're also going to garnish it with just a little bit of vinegar. Not too much vinegar, just a little bit. And afterwards, I will do a taste test and I'll tell you what I think of it. Okay, let's see what I think of this. This is really good. I really like the combination of the meat with the broth. And the dough is very nice and firm. This is delicious. And this is the finished product served on our plates, served with some nice bread and butter. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next episode.